Let's talk about what dense forest looks like for authors. If you haven't already watched the other videos in the series, go back and watch those first and then jump in here. Okay, so there can sometimes be this idea in personal development that you're only successful or liberated or whatever if you did it all on your own without any help. Great news. That's nonsense. Complete bullshit. People who claim they did it without any help are people who are overlooking the help they received along the way. You don't want to be that person. So let's get real and get humble about the amount of support we'll want to build for ourselves if we stand a chance of doing this long term. Just like a giant sequoia needs other tall trees around it to bounce off of when the wind picks up, you'll need the support from others when you encounter a situation that's beyond your current set of skills. No matter how much you learn, you'll encounter novel situations like this, things that threaten to knock you on your ass. So things like grief, emergency costs, betrayals, stinging criticism, unmet expectations, and so on. You can be as committed to this work as you want, but you won't continue to progress with the inner work without support from others. Growing strong roots can get scary and ugly. Healing from loss is hard. Changing our beliefs to better fit reality is grueling. You're going to confront demons and ghosts. You're going to lose money. You're going to lose friends. And you're going to wonder why you even bother at times. This is where support is the gift that keeps on giving. None of these things will topple you forever if you have other trees to bounce off of. When you're falling, they may be unaffected by the wind of that same fate. So when you're standing tall, then you're there to help them stay upright. So both things positively influence our well-being. Knowing we have others to support us increases our willingness to take the necessary risks for staying in the writing game. We're willing to stretch ourselves, knowing that if we push ourselves too far, we have others who can help us recover. Meanwhile, being able to support others increases our awareness of our personal resources, including wisdom, resiliency, selfless love, and sometimes material wealth. You don't have to be a millionaire to feel a boost from buying your friend who's going through it some ice cream. And you don't have to be a therapist to recognize that your ability to provide comfort to a friend through a phone conversation is borderline miraculous, right? So having people around you who will support you is just as important to our sense of well-being as recognizing how we are able to support others. That being said, not all support needs to be that reciprocal. So your personal support network will require the interactions to go both ways. But there are also professional support options that you'll definitely want to consider. So some examples of personal support are friends, spouse, other authors, readers, neighbors, online groups, adult family members. And I say adult family members because your children are not there to support you. So those are just some examples of personal support. And some examples of professional support, that is support that you pay for, are coaches, editors, therapists, agents, an assistant, a project manager, doctors, teachers. It's about a split down the middle of whether authors feel more comfortable with professional support or personal support. So take a moment to do an inventory of the support that you have. Do you tend to have much more of one than the other, personal over professional or vice versa? Why do you think that is? Where could you build more support for yourself in the category that you're underutilizing? The general rule for independently minded people like authors is to imagine how much support you'd need to be comfortable taking more necessary risks in your career and your life. Then double that. We are terrible at estimating this, and we tend to lowball the number so that it's closer to the bare minimum we would need to get out of bed in the morning rather than what would support our thriving. So let's talk about some of the things we may be doing to clear cut the forest around us instead of increasing the density of the trees. You're likely clear cutting the forest if you are, ready? Waiting for others to check on you, emotionally withholding from friends, listening to your social anxiety, gossiping about friends to other friends, isolating from other authors, ignoring your readers, trying to white knuckle mental and physical health issues, avoiding necessary conflict, opting for social media instead of one-on-one or small group chats. So over time, the trees around you will fall one by one if you don't attend to these clear-cutting patterns and make some changes. There's also a certain natural rate of attrition with our friends over time as we may grow away from some of them. The attrition itself isn't worrisome, and it may be necessary to avoid keeping relationships that have become toxic. But if you're not also making new friends, aging can become synonymous with loneliness. And that's one of the biggest health risks around for a social species like ours. Loneliness carries with it massively increased risks of heart attacks and cancer, as our bodies are physiologically wired to thrive off social interaction. So here are some things you can play around with if you're ready to create a dense forest. Here's a list. You can try to check in with friends randomly, schedule after-work social activities, show up, keep making new friends, schedule regular team meetings, communicate more with your readers, join healthy author communities, schedule health appointments with your doctors as needed, work with someone farther along than you are in your career. So the list goes on. You could join a group class, organize events with your neighbors. If you don't already have a dog, you could get a dog. Yes, pets absolutely count as trees in your forest. So building support in this way is crucial for you to thrive. But unfortunately, if you haven't addressed the internal patterns that can weaken your roots, those patterns are undoubtedly showing up in your relationships and possibly poisoning your connections. Unhealthy people attract similarly unhealthy people as friends, and before long, the entire forest may be dying. So part of your audit of support may cause you to reevaluate some of the relationships in your life. And as you strengthen your roots, those who are not similarly on that quest may become more of an energy suck than much needed support. There's this thing in nature called the wood wide web. So beneath the soil, the roots of a given tree are connected to the roots of all the nearby trees through strings of fungi, which botanists and mycologists alike refer to as the wood wide web. When one tree is under attack from disease or an infestation, it will send help signals through the web, and other trees will divert resources to that tree to help it recover. They may also change the chemical makeup of their leaves to repel those pests. To be clear, this is not altruism. There's not really altruism in the natural world like that. So this is simple survival. Trees, like people, survive and thrive the best when they have others around them. However, you don't want to be the tree that is always sending help signals. And you also may want to notice when one of the trees in your network is always sending those signals, but never diverting its own resources. That may not be a tree that you want in your wood wide web. So that brings us to the end of this video. But before you leave, I want to invite you to take a moment to ask yourself, where do I lack support in my life? And how do I start cultivating it? In the next video, I'm going to explain why authors of each Enneagram type tend to fail in building the support they need so that you can unearth one of the patterns that may be weakening your roots, keeping you from enriching your soil, and clear-cutting your forest.